Let's get right to the point of it, shall we? Right to the heart of the challenge. The rules are simple, as outlined by the much appreciated commentator who recommended this challenge. Lethal difficulty, broken armor only, no charms, no upgrading my blade, no bow or ghost weapons, and the most obvious, piercing attacks only, specifically from Jin's sword. We've done this dance enough that let me just make it very clear right away all the obvious moments other challenges have usually proven Jin must act outside of the challenge. Training as a child, learning to switch targets, his first standoff, his first assassination, lifting a heavy burden off a man's shoulders, first poisoning, boat protection duty, and con cleanup. These are the obvious ones that plague me, and now with them all mentioned, we can focus on everything else that counts. All the unexpected troubles and joys that pop up along the path of pain I've chosen to embark on with this challenge. Having your island's entire protection force massacred in a suicidal charge against an overwhelming invasion force, your uncle, the lord of the island, captured and imprisoned by that same force, and then being riddled with arrows till you stop moving, has a way of changing a person. Sure, he could be like hardened thief Yuna and do whatever it takes to win, no matter how dishonorable, or he could be like his uncle and always fight the honorable way, no matter the cost. But neither of those options would truly, completely show the Mongols just how superior of a fighter he is than them. And when you're waging war against an insurmountable force, showcasing how much better you are than them is what really counts. Which is why we have Jin here poking away at this raised shield with minimum success instead of easily slashing through it. It is not wise, effective, and takes way too long to break through to kill the man, but when the light leaves this Mongol's eyes, he'll know Jin was going very easy on him, and his spirit will die along with his body. This works well on a singular enemy, but simply throwing in one spearman to help the shield unit and Jin's slow defense breaking may cost him too much. So obviously, that spearman needs to get pierced before he can do the piercing, and that way it's possible to break the Mongols' line of defense and take the battle to their Khan. The Khan cares not for challenges nor honor, and with his polearm in hand, Jin's piercing ability is greatly outmatched. In his desperation, Jin strikes out with a regular slash, causing his own spirit to fall in disgrace, followed immediately by his body as the Khan lashes out. Somehow surviving another near-death experience, Jin renews his vow to take lives only by piercing attacks and only within his useless armor, and then he sets out to make the Mongols fear his piercing gaze. If they even see him at all, that is, as while Jin will alert the rest of the camp with his loud assassinations, taking lives from a position of stealth is possible for the first enemy to fall anyway. Plus, Jin recognizes taking advantage of shield units being distracted by Yuna means there's no need to worry about breaking down their defense first. As for swordsmen, their defense means nothing to piercing strike, as it strikes right between their blades, felling them with ease. Jin has seen enough to understand now how to follow up his one piercing strike with a second puncture, making it easier to slay his foes as a few nearby bandits learn to their misfortune. Jin also learns that it doesn't matter how lowly his enemy is. If he's not faster about striking, things can get ugly for him fast. It's clear they have the advantage on speed, but Jin has the advantage on range, so better to play to his strengths if he wants to be the one still standing when the dust settles. As Jin works to help Sensei Insufferable, it becomes apparent that prioritizing shield units likely leads to one fatal result. Perhaps it's best to leave them for last, and I really mean for last, because even one remaining doggo distracting Jin could provide the shield man enough time to recover his posture and start the whole long process over again. Having taken the time to help the sensei has given Jin the means to deliver 3 deadly strikes back to back, the maximum possible, ensuring that he has an easier time on the battlefield. For now, that matters only in terms of shield units, as these weaker Mongols never survive long enough to experience all 3 hits, which makes light work of every enemy until Jin comes across his first commander. These warriors have no intention of letting Jin break their shields, only providing Jin a hit on their shields once before deflecting every subsequent blow. Well, that's inconvenient. No matter, he can't block everywhere, which means Sensei simply needs to fire on his back while Jin distracts him. If only he wouldn't take his time doing so, Jin might have kept from hitting the dirt. To everyone's surprise though, Jin keeps from dying when Sensei finally lands a shot, ending the fight. Better late than never, but I think better on time than late. At least the final battle to save Hiyoshi Springs goes much smoother, as the only true trouble proves to be this rather well-fed Mongol shield unit. Jin's learned his lesson about leaving the enemies with strong defenses for last, and makes the man watch as he cuts down his allies, and once he's alone, it doesn't take long to see big equals slow, and that means not recovering quickly from being parried, leaving his back open to multiple fatal strikes. Jin may not be able to improve in most matters, but having better health and more resolve to heal more often will be a nice comfort in the battles ahead. The longer this war goes on, the stronger the enemy will become, and it's best to prepare now to ensure his best chance at success. It's while helping Yuna save her brother in stealth that Jin puts to use the second main way to kill through piercing strikes, an aerial assassination. Not as skillful or as flashy as combat would be, but when stealth is a necessity, it's nice to have the option. An unexpected murder from above is a good way to strike fear into the hearts of the enemy. With the amount of power behind every strike Jin delivers, even with his forever low-quality blade, even brutes must fear him, as his strikes stun them and tear through their mighty frame. By the time Jin reaches Komatsu Forge and is working to protect the citizens, the Mongol force has already grown to a new level of power, and with so many enemies that surpass him in reach, along with speed, plus multiple shield units, things have begun to be troublesome. Good! Jin could use the exercise, and there's no value in holding back so much if the Mongols aren't going to give him a fight. Even better, by leaving the shield units for last, they're prone to targeting the unarmed civilians, which leaves them open to a blade in the back. Even better than that, even better, Jin now knows the third and final form of piercing attack, the perfect dodge strike, which he can do as long as he dodges at the last moment from an attack. This is such a game changer, as shield units like the commanders don't need to be broken down, and a well-timed dodge can now end the fight far faster. With these three attacks making up Jin's arsenal, his legend is taking form, and it's time to press the advantage. Wiping out the Mongols holding the Straw Hat mercenaries captive, rescuing a group of civilians, and eliminating Mongol base after Mongol base all further cement this legend, but things take a turn when Jin seeks out a legendary archer armor. Why would he seek out archer armor in the first place, you may ask, when he refuses to take up the bow or change armor? Because Mongols will be there, and where they are, Jin intends to also be until there's no more invaders on his island. But before the Mongols, a duel against the protector of the armor must occur, and here's where things go wrong. Sure, she's fast, but keeping the distance means there's still plenty of time to react, either perfectly dodging or poking her before she can even get close. The fight itself is not the problem actually, but the end is where Jin, in an act of pure instinct and honed habits, perfect parries and counterattacks her with a hard slash, bringing the fight to a close. Tragically, nothing can undo this completely avoidable mistake, and Jin must continue on his journey, knowing that he faltered in his pursuit of piercing perfection. This air weighs heavily upon his shoulders, and perhaps that's part of why he falls several times right after retrieving the archer armor, while seeking to protect this musician from attack. Well, that and the plethora of archers trying to pierce his hide, quite successfully at that. But once the deed is done, there's nothing standing between Jin and rescuing his uncle. Minus all these Mongols, but they don't stay standing for long. If only the same could be said for Ryuzo, Jin's traitorous Straw Hat friend. For 23 minutes, the two former friends are locked in combat, as the backstabber is smarter than your average bear, not willing to let Jin land back-to-back strikes, and not letting his guard drop until he's gotten in a few combos himself. Jin could always perfectly dodge strike his way to victory, but that takes more skill than usually mustered, and with how weak Jin's blade is, this means this war of attrition rarely yields a positive outcome. Stings all the worst when Jin only gets a single poke away from victory and whiffs his chance. It doesn't help that Ryuzo's attacks outplay Jin in both speed and range, but that just means it's all the more humiliating when the Straw Hat loses regardless. With so little working for Jin, this simplifies things, and it doesn't take much thinking to realize that simply keeping on the defense, not even trying to attack till Ryuzo's guard is lowered, after he fails to hit enough times, is the key to poking holes in his defense and bringing him low. Even though he survives, his pride is certainly shattered, and that's what really counts, I'd say. After that struggle, Jin decides to spread his legend around by helping his people in the best way he knows how. slaughtering every Mongol encampment he can find. For half an hour, this small encampment of Straw Hats and Mongols holds Jin in check, as each Straw Hat has the audacity to prevent Jin from striking multiple times unless enough time has passed. Plus, each time Jin prepares to strike, he leaves himself vulnerable to being interrupted, which proves difficult to prevent by distance since the camp is so cramped. Makes much more sense to take his enemies out in the open then, correct? Absolutely! And that really works out, until accidental perfect parry countering ruins all of it. Which is why the next time Jin comes close to victory using the open field tactic, he makes sure to maximize the safety of everything by stealth killing the rest of them. Minus the leader, of course, as the final survivor, he gets the reward of death by combat. I'm sure he's grateful for this opportunity. At least he can take time between all the killing to chat with his old caretaker and enjoy the scenery. Such beauty, contrasted so heavily by such savagery. Jin may have taken more time to think on that had he not soon discovered that one nuisance he couldn't have predicted would be bird watching. Birds watching him, that is, not vice versa. They're a bit out of reach as they alert their masters to Jin's location. Though, just because the Mongols know the general spot of where Jin is, doesn't mean they actually see him till he's ramming a blade through their spine. If he doesn't accidentally miss his target, that is, and then struggle to pull his blade out of nothing at all, I fear so little sleep, constant physical exertion, and mass killings might be getting to Jin's mind a little bit, but at least he's still decent enough at perfect dodging to finish the rest of the Mongols off. If only the same could be said for trying to sneak into the Straw Hat camp. Jin really goes from crushing his enemies to being crushed himself over and over again. The deciding factor, often, it is based on how easy it is for Jin to get pinned against a wall, where his ability to evade his numerous foes or keep the distance to start his attacks is greatly hampered, making it much easier for the samurai to be pinned down and brought low. That, and the discovery that while Jin is faster than the Mongol firefighters when they try and fire, he's not faster than them if they simply swing their weapon, and that's a tough thing to learn. Mainly for Jin's body. On the bright side, positive side I mean, not Jin's burning body, the Mongols always let their guard down whenever Jin pulls himself from death's door, and that makes for a free kill. That, and it's not the hardest to stay ahead of them, using the windows to slow them down and kill them as they follow through. Jin just has to make sure that he's not blown away before he can finish the job, which he very nearly is, but pulling through means a reward of one swift bonk to the head, one more dead friend to mourn, and a small army of Straw Hats to fight through in order to escape. But you know what? After watching his friend die, Jin's not interested in playing around. Using the rooftop to lose the Straw Hats' line of sight, Jin can pop in and out, killing each of them one by one, until only 2 are left standing. That will do. These last 2 can give their all to avenge their allies, but it won't be enough for them, as Jin doesn't consider 2 lone mercenaries to be a threat to him. Especially when one of them waits too long for the chance to strike, leaving his friend to die without help, which means the lone survivor won't have any assistance when it's his turn to measure up. Their demise completes one part of 3 of Jin's revenge. Next comes the traitor. But to get to him, Jin will have to kill quickly, as stealth is vital here, but air assassination isn't available. Thankfully, the patrols are random in terms of what Jin will face, and enough failures against shield units will yield mostly swordsmen who are much easier to kill quickly. Though a single shield man does have to be dodged perfectly in order to slay the whole watchtower without alerting anyone. It's not like the guards are so dumb that Jin can fall from the sky among them, get cut down nearly immediately, and still somehow not alert the entire area because being knocked down pushes Jin into a bush, making the Mongols lose sight of him, then promptly forget he exists even as he stands back up and slowly recovers. I guess it is like that actually. He's not even in the bush but next to it. Even grappling upwards in full view of everyone somehow doesn't alert anyone. Honestly, they're so unaware that I'm surprised they even notice their own bodies are dying as the poison Jin puts in their drink does its thing. I suppose all the luck Jin used up there avoiding the Mongol gaze is why he has none when facing off against his old friend for the second time. Despite his fighting style not evolving much since Jin last faced him, Ryuzo is great at going from being stabbed to stabbing back in a blink, which is terrible when speed is such a weakness of this fighting style. The traitor has learned his lesson from their first fight, and has no interest in slowing down to allow Jin a chance to strike. Sure, Jin can still perfect dodge, and that's safer to do than trying to lunge, but the longer the fight goes on, which the dullness of Jin's blade already ensures is going on for quite a while, the longer Jin has to screw up and lose the fight. It's really difficult to show enemies how much better at fighting you are than them when they keep winning. That little detail might be a slight hiccup in Jin's plan. Speed will always be a dangerous detail, and Jin probably deserves to have fallen, but the parry and dodge timings start to come together just enough, which is all that's needed for Jin to last long enough to poke Ryuzo into submission. One final poke, and he can follow his pride right into the void. 2/3 of Jin's vengeance has been fulfilled, and all the Straw Hats are now in hell, discussing how superior Jin is of a warrior, so all that's left is the Khan. Whereas fighting Ryuzo took Jin 1 hour to win, the Khan has even less respect for Jin's time or his skills, meaning with the help of his last remaining soldiers, the Khan is able to hold back Jin for over 3 hours. First, the bad news. The Khan is durable, fast, also loves to use piercing strikes with a weapon much more made for it, has a large group of soldiers all ready to interrupt Jin and kill him mid-attack if the Khan doesn't do it first. And, well, no, that basically sums it up. The good news! Jin can hit the Khan multiple times before he defends himself, and he knows everything they can throw at him. Front, backwards, and upside down. But knowing and being good enough are two different things. Oh wait, that's still partially bad news. Well, the real good news is, when Jin does skewer his way out of this, however slowly it takes, and the Mongol invasion force is nothing but ash, this will cement Jin Sakai as the superior warrior in every way possible. Sure, he dies dozens of times, but they don't know that, and if they did, they'd fear him even greater as the Undying Ghost rises time and time again, refusing to accept death and defeat, only satisfied when his blade has pierced the heart of every single invader. As they look upon his dirty, worthless armor, his dull sword, and watch as he performs the same moves over and over without variation, they will feel only terror and taste only steel and blood. Jin considers the pain he must undergo to accomplish this well worth it. With one final thrust of his blade, the Mongol invasion has been routed, the Khan is dead, and vengeance has been fulfilled. If only his uncle would leave it there. But despite being far too honorable for Yuna's taste, this strategy of Jin's was far less honorable than his uncle, and more importantly, the Shogun could abide. Unlike the duels of recent, Jin will not be caught here for long, only suffering a few defeats. The price of doing such minuscule damage and facing off against a warrior that excels in covering distance faster than one can blink. But Jin has spent years watching his uncle fight. He learned most of what he knows, and is actively ignoring, from his uncle after all. So while the final skirmish takes over 4 minutes, it's mostly Jin dodging and parrying everything thrown at him, patiently waiting for his chance to strike back, and then back to waiting and defending till the overzealous samurai lord's guard drops once more. Poke away enough times and even idols must fall. Jin's uncle may never forgive him, may not even survive his wounds or the Shogun's anger, but he will always remember that Jin is a legend of the blade, and while that's a small consolation, that will have to do. Huzzah! After 282 deaths over 23 hours, 58 minutes, nearly an entire day of fighting, I've beaten Ghost with only piercing attacks, when possible anyway. Thank ye again for the suggestion, and thank ye all for watching. I truly hope it pierced a cloud of boredom or two for you. Now I'm off to wait patiently and excitedly for the new Ghost game in October. I'll see you all far sooner than that, I'd hope. I'll see you later, friends.